What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday to you, and welcome to another edition of the Danny Show with me, your host Daniel Cody, giving you commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Before I get started, I want to thank all the viewers and all the subscribers. For all of you who are new, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can be notified on all things of the Danny Show from yours truly. Now, lately, over the past couple of times, I've been doing throwback reviews on Backlash. As we all know, Backlash, or WrestleMania Backlash, why do they have that double title? I will never know. But either way, tonight is WrestleMania Backlash with a triple threat match between Drew, Braun, and Lashley, the almighty Bobby Lashley. And of course, a couple of very important things happening tonight. And I'm going to say this before we get into our last review, our last throwback review of Backlash for this time. The Mysterios better win tonight. I'm telling you right now, if the Mysterios don't win, I'm going to punch a hole in the wall. That's just me. But either way, let's get into our review. It would not be right of me, with us gearing up for tonight's Backlash, it would not be right of me if I did not give a review of Backlash 2020. Now, a lot of people thought 2020 absolutely sucked. For some people, 2020 was the break that we all needed. For some people, 2020 absolutely sucked, and my prayers for those of you who it absolutely sucked for. However, 2020 did present some amazing memories as far as WWE and entertainment was concerned. We're talking about the Boneyard match from WrestleMania, and we're talking about the Last Man Standing match between Orton and Edge, and of course the Firefly Funhouse match with John Cena and Bray Wyatt. A lot of great cinematic wrestling matches. And today we got to talk about Backlash from last year. It was amazing. And before I get into the review of the match that we all came to hear about, let's just talk about a couple of the great things that happened that night. And while I can't cover everything, I'm just going to cover my favorite parts because I don't want to run out of too much time. I'll hold you too long. First and foremost, there's a lot of irony. First off, an irony is this. If you pay attention, you notice that the audience, because the main audience had to stay home, a lot of the trainees were fans throughout that night and so forth. And if you watch Backlash from 2020 on the WWE Network or on Peacock, it's free on Peacock, no premium needed. You will notice there are a lot of familiar faces in the trainees as audience, including Shotzi Blackheart, Xia Li, along with her sidekick. I forgot what his name is, but you can see him in the front row, along with many of the greats. The women who were part of the tag team division in NXT were there. A lot of great future stars were in that audience. So look closely and you might see some familiar faces in the audience as far as the trainees as fans. But that's one thing. I also noticed, let's talk about some irony. First off, it was an amazing match between Drew McIntyre and the almighty Bobby Lashley, who at the time was having problems with Lana. But at the same time, it was right around the time where MVP and Bobby were starting to come together and later on would form the Hurt Business. But Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre put on a heck of a match. It was amazing to watch. It was for the Raw WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Drew was champion at the time and defended successfully. However, notice at the time, Bobby Lashley, the almighty Bobby Lashley, had developed his own version of the full Nelson. And I want to ask you guys, if you don't mind commenting. Who do you think does the full Nelson better? The Master Lock version by Chris Masters or Bobby Lashley's version of the full Nelson? Who do you think is better? If you have an opinion, leave it down in the comment section below. But that was an amazing match to watch between Drew and Bobby Lashley. Ironically, the tables have turned tremendously because last year Drew was the champion and he defeated Drew McIntyre was the champion and defeated Bobby Lashley. However, a year later, a lot can change in a year. A lot can. And one of the things that has changed is 1 year later at WrestleMania, Bobby Lashley was the champion and defeated Drew McIntyre with that same full Nelson lock that he locked in at the beginning of last year's Backlash. So it's so much irony. Last year, Drew versus Bobby. This year, it will be Drew versus the almighty Bobby Lashley, also versus the monster among men, the freight train, Braun Strowman. It will be a triple threat match between three giants, three of Raw's top giants, and I'm very excited to see that. We've heard of the irresistible force meeting the immovable object. Tonight, it's going to be the irresistible force, the immovable object, and the unstoppable train. That's the only original thing I can come up with right now. But that was great to watch. Another great match that we saw was Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus. And this storyline was based on a very personal issue involving Jeff Hardy. And we all, some of us do, love a story where good guys get attacked personally and try to fight it off. We saw it with Nia Jax on bullying. We saw it with Braun Strowman at this year's WrestleMania. I had no idea Braun Strowman actually went through those things in real life. So he was playing the role as himself, and he overcame everything, all the naysayers. Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus was a match angle that based off Sheamus making fun and taunting Jeff Hardy for his personal demons. Now, while I have never been through drug addiction and alcohol, I do know what it's like to fight personal demons. I understand that full well. With Jeff Hardy, his personal demons that Sheamus mocked was drugs and alcohol. And Jeff Hardy has been recovering from alcohol, so it's great to see him getting better again. And unfortunately, despite having a great match, unfortunately, Sheamus came out with the victory at the time. And Sheamus also did what he did because he felt like he wasn't getting the attention and the respect that he deserved, and some of that rubbed off in a personal interview he had earlier this year before Fastlane. But either way, unfortunately, we were all disappointed that Jeff Hardy did not win. Thankfully, Jeff Hardy got revenge after defeating Sheamus in a bar fight, which gives us a lot of SmackDown versus Raw vibes. If you saw that match on SmackDown last summer, it gave us a lot of SmackDown versus Raw vibes. For those of you who played those games in your teen years or in your childhood years, you remember that you could have bar fights, and it was very fun to do. And that reminded us of those games. So thankfully, Jeff got revenge. Even though he did not win at Backlash, he did get his victory on an episode of SmackDown in that wrestling match in a bar. So kudos to Jeff for overcoming that angle and also for fighting personal demons, which made that angle such entertaining to see, and it's very inspirational as well. For me, it was very inspirational. And if you are a Jeff Hardy fan, it's very inspirational to see him fight his demons and then fight the ones who mock him for having those personal demons. just like it was with Eddie Guerrero at No Way Out 2004. However, moving on, there was so much that happened. We saw 2020 gave us a lot of cinematic matches, and one of them was the Viking Raiders versus the Street Profits. That was hilarious to watch. We really enjoyed that. We saw Omos as the gigantic ninja in that match before he aligned himself with AJ Styles. But just watching the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders in their cinematic angles, that was entertaining. I know WWE is about sports entertainment as well as wrestling, but that was just straight up entertaining to watch. Very entertaining. You look good. You, not so much. That had to be hurtful. That's cool. But now, with all that being said and all that other extra, let's get into what we really came to talk about, and that is the greatest match ever. One of the greatest matches of all time, which saw Edge versus Christian. No, Edge versus Randy Orton. Now, they had a heck of a last man standing match at the previous pay-per-view, WrestleMania, in an empty arena, by the way. However, because of COVID, this match here was the best of it all. One of the greatest matches of all time, and it fits the category next to matches such as The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, or AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan on an episode of SmackDown a couple of nights prior for the Intercontinental Championships. I don't have time to list all the great matches that Edge versus Randy Orton are next to in the top 10, but I guarantee you, Edge versus Orton, they're one of the tops alongside the couple that I just mentioned. Man, if you watch that match, first thing I must say is I appreciate how they had Howard Finkel as a voiceover, because Howard Finkel not too long ago had passed away. God rest his soul. However, seeing that match was absolutely amazing. Both guys were just great. I mean, in the first 5 minutes, we saw a lot of self-doubt within Edge, because Edge tried to do a couple of arm bars and was caught, and as Joe pointed out, one too many. Then a lot of moves were countered because they know each other so well. RKO was avoided in the early going. The power slam was avoided in the near end. So it was just, I cannot put into enough words how amazing that match was. If you are a WWE fan, or a pro wrestling fan, or just wrestling period, that is a match that I will encourage you to see. And not only did they pull out some of their best, but they took pages out of some of the wrestlers' book from past rivals, Hall of Famers. They brought it all. In the beginning, after a few short holds and after arm bars, trading amazing arm bars and arm slams, wrist takedowns, amazing holds, after using all of that in the beginning and doing amazing with it, we saw them take pages out of some Legends books, some of the Hall of Famers. We saw Randy Orton attempt to do the Three Amigos, which is made famous by the late great Eddie Guerrero. However, Edge countered it and was able to do all three successfully. Then we saw them chop each other's chests, which they said gave vibes of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Ric Flair, which is a match I need to see, because I've seen Randy Savage versus Ricky, but there are a lot of great matches that I have yet to catch, and I've caught a lot of things, but thankfully I still have more to catch up on, and that's one of them. But we saw the chopping, we saw the Three Amigos, we saw Randy Orton pulling out Kurt Angle's Angle Slam. We saw Edge use his own spear twice. We saw Randy Orton's RKO twice. We saw what else did we see? We saw Edge pull out a page out of his best friend's playbook, Christian, with the Unprettier, as well as the Edge-O-Matic, which they both do in their own modified way. And of course, ironically, Christian, as of now, has gone to AEW, and hopefully will get an AEW championship run at some point. However, going back to WWE, we didn't just see that. Randy Orton took a page out of his mentor from Evolution's playbook, Triple H, with a pedigree, only to have Edge take a page out of Triple H's greatest rival, The Rock, with his own version of the Rock Bottom, or the Edge Bottom, should I say. So, one of the things that made it so great was they traded holds, they traded slams, they had some of the best dramatic kickouts I've ever seen, and on top of that all, they used, because they ran out of their own stuff, even the commentators pointed out that when you've used your best, sometimes you gotta use moves from the others. Take a page out of everyone else's book, and they did just that. It was amazing to watch, and to cap it all off, unfortunately, from a fan standpoint, not a lot of people got what they want, because some were rooting for Edge. Believe it or not, some were actually rooting for Orton. However, after Edge applied his new famous anti-venom hold, Randy Orton delivered his own low blow, and the career-ending, or career-threatening, should I say, punt to the skull for the win. Even though, from a fan standpoint, people wanted to see Edge win, it was still an amazing match. But that rivalry would not end there, because several months later, Edge and Randy Orton would start off the Royal Rumble match and end it with Edge throwing Randy Orton over the top rope after a close call in which we thought Orton had the match won. Thankfully also, Edge, in his return to Monday Night Raw for the first time in 9 years, got a secure victory over Randy Orton, even though it was help from a possessed Alexa Bliss. But either way, that match was amazing, and I cannot put it into enough words. And I had to give my review on this as we gear up for tonight's Backlash, because it wouldn't be right if I didn't. It just wouldn't be right. You can give a review on anything else. If you're going to talk about Backlash, you got to talk about this one. This is one of the greatest matches of all time, one of the greatest backlashes of all time. So I hope you watched that match, and I hope you've seen it. If you haven't, you don't know what you're missing. But that match, again, was very amazing, and I can't wait to see what happens tonight in the triple threat match, all the triple threat matches that are taking place. I hope the Mysterios win. I know some of y'all are tired of hearing me say it, and there are some of you who agree with me. Those Mysterios better win tonight. I'm punching a hole in something, I swear. I'm punching a hole. And that's all the time I got for you tonight. I'll be back with you tonight, and we'll see if I come back happy or ready to punch a hole in the wall. Not really punch a hole, but you know what I mean. I'll be back tonight with WrestleMania Backlash preview and my thoughts and take on what happens tonight. I'll see you then, so stay tuned. Peace out.